Has Nebraska become the top athletic department in the Big Ten? Well, if not, they're definitely trending upward. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's get into it. The Huskers are reaching high. Also, a jury decision has come in on the Penn State wrongful termination case where doctors said James Franklin interfered with player medical decisions. We talked about this a couple days ago. Got the latest on that. The jury has spoken. Plus, our Big Ten Classics and live action coming up this weekend. You know, I was thinking how things are trending upward with Nebraska Athletics these days. I'm just riffing off the top of my head, but you know, the baseball team, they just won the Big Ten tournament. They're going to the NCAA tournament. The basketball team, both the men's and the women's team, had successful seasons going to the NCAA tournament. I'm still amazed at the outdoor volleyball match at Memorial Stadium last August where 92,000 people showed up. That was super cool. So a lot going on. And of course, there's Matt Rhule, who feels like he's close to breaking through with this football team and having a successful football season. And I think they have one of the most interesting freshmen in the country, a quarterback at Dylan Raiola. Lots to look forward to if you're a Nebraska Cornhusker fan. Frankly, it kind of makes you wonder why former athletic director Trev Alberts left this year, didn't hang around to take all the credit for everything that was going on, especially when you consider that Nebraska is his alma mater. Whether you're a diehard Husker fan, you're a rival, or you're just indifferent, you have to admit things are going pretty well at Nebraska. Let's start with the upcoming football season. First goal is to win 6 games and get into a bowl. And despite playing with a true freshman with Dylan Raiola at quarterback at the helm, I think the team around him is good enough to do that at a minimum. You know, they left some wins on the table last year with some sloppy quarterback play and a lot of turnovers. Otherwise, they would have gone bowling last year. So I think the core of the team is there that can do this, that can win some football games. And again, if they take care of the turnovers and they clean up quarterback play, they're going bowling, again, at a minimum. Now, I said in a podcast earlier this week that I'm not claiming they're going to win the Big Ten, but I think they are a team to watch this season. You know, this is exactly the kind of things I was talking about last year on this podcast last summer about Iowa. A lot of you laughed at me, thought I was crazy all the way to watching Iowa win 10 games last year and make their way into the Big Ten championship game against Michigan. Now, again, I'm not saying Nebraska is going to win 10 games in 2024 or play in a Big Ten championship, but I think they have a strong season coming up. And in addition to tapping over the turnovers, you do have to remember, though, that Raiola is a true freshman. The question is, how quick is this learning curve going to be? Rarely do true freshmen just step right onto campus and right into the starting lineup at a Power 5 or Power 4 team. It almost never happens. I mean, it does, but it's rare. And it's also rare for them to perform well right away. Everybody knows if they're going to start out, we're going to get it over with, get the mistakes over with here and build for the future. I don't know that Nebraska is in build for the future mode. I think they want to win and have some results right away this season. But it looks like he's going to get the chance. And again, it just becomes a matter of how steep his learning curve is and how quickly he goes. Matt Rhule knows this, but he also knows that Raiola is from a diehard football family where it's football, 24 hours a day. And he suspects that that's why Raiola looks so prepared in the Huskers spring game this past month. It's something I noticed as well watching it. I'm sure you did too. I mean, the guy looked like he had taken a few snaps before. Didn't look like a rookie back there. He's got a certain swagger or confidence about him when he's going back to throw. So the excitement about the future, it's all good. What about the present at Nebraska? Nebraska just won the baseball tournament, the Big Ten baseball tournament, and then won the championship. And now they're going to be the number 2 seed in the Stillwater Regional, the NCAA baseball tournament. They're going to play the Florida Gators tomorrow on Friday at 2:00. You can catch that on ESPN Plus, by the way. At the top, I also mentioned the Huskers volleyball team. We're very amazed at their record-setting outing in front of 92,000 people in the football stadium to watch an outdoor volleyball game last August. Other people have noticed as well. ESPN has been following the volleyball coaches and players around for a while. They're going to do a feature documentary, and camera crews even showed up at players' hometowns to learn more about their player hometowns and the coaches' hometowns and the families that raised them and send them off to college and get all the backstories. So no release date has been announced, but the Huskers begin play for the 2024 season August 30th versus Texas A&M Corpus Christi at the Devaney Sports Center. So a lot more hype coming for this volleyball team at Nebraska. And then there's Nebraska basketball, and particularly sharpshooter Casey Tominaga, who he's been scheduling a lot of workouts with some NBA teams, including recently the Kings and the Clippers. He played 32 games for the Huskers this past season. He averaged 15 points per game. And at times, I thought he was the most prolific electric shooter from the outside, usually at home. Remember, Nebraska won most of the games at home and had trouble winning on the road. But when he was at home, he was hitting threes. He could do it with his eyes closed. Really fun to watch. So, he hit 46% from the field this year, 38% from three land, and NBA teams like dudes that can hit from the outside. He's one of them. He went through this whole pre-draft workout thing last year and then decided, in fact, I remember he worked out with the Pacers last year, but then he decided he was going to return to Nebraska for his senior year. And lucky for Nebraska, he did. It was a great season. It was a lot of fun. I think he had a lot of fun too. This year is projected to be a second-round pick in the upcoming NBA draft. So with everything rolling in Lincoln, why did athletic director Trev Alberts leave this year, especially when Nebraska is his alma mater? Now, money is always a good place to start answering these questions, and he will be well compensated at Texas A&M, where he went to take the same job. But before he left, he talked about leadership at Nebraska, or lack thereof. On his way out, he didn't want to say anything bad about his alma mater, but if leadership is important for his vision of the future, it should be noted that the school did not have a permanent president in place for some time. Even the state's governor was critical of the school's board of trustees or board of regents for not filling important positions in a timely manner. So Nebraska's former president, you remember Ted Carter, he left to go become the president at Ohio State last summer. They had an interim president in the meantime, and the school just named Jeffrey Gold as president last month, but Trev Alberts had already left at that point. Speaking of Trev Alberts, his replacement is Troy Dannon, who was named the athletic director to replace Alberts in March. They moved fairly quickly on that position. Took forever to name a president, but got the athletic director job filled pretty quickly. Obviously, there have been a lot of changes in Lincoln, but for now, from the outside looking in, Dannon is inheriting a lot of positive momentum right now in the athletic department. Let's hear it now from you guys, Husker fans. Love to hear your perspective on all of this as well. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to Locked On Big Ten. You can follow Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. I always remind you, audio versions are out at 4 a.m. Eastern and wherever you get your podcast. And if you want the YouTube video, that comes out at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your commute to work, if you want to check it out, and tell your friends about us, especially if you know some Big Ten alum or friends that are Big Ten people. Let them know about us. We're here every single day, Locked On Big Ten. We got a basketball injury update at Indiana. We'll share that with you. And as I mentioned, the jury is in. This is from Wednesday night regarding Penn State and a wrongful termination lawsuit. And they tried to drag James Franklin into the testimony there. They were talking about him a lot. We'll sort all that out in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. So stay with us. We'll get that. And by the way, again, Franklin was not a defendant in this case, but he was a big part of it when it came to testimony. All that coming up in a minute on Locked On Big Ten. Game Time is an app you need. You know, we got the NBA Finals coming. You want to go? You can go with Game Time. That's right. Download this app and it'll help you get your NBA tickets faster and easier. Prices on Game Time actually go down the closer you get to tip off. They got killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seats. You can see a picture of the view of the seat of the ticket you're about to buy at the arena. You got their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. And don't forget, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, not just sports, concerts, comedy, theater. If anything has a ticket, you can get it on Game Time. Game Time will help you take all the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets. Again, with Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. It's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. Always appreciate you everydayers who just keep coming back over and over. Thank you for your loyalty. We try to reward that loyalty back to you by putting out some pretty good podcasts each and every day. We love doing them. Love talking Big Ten. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Just click it. No further information is required. Doesn't cost anything. And then we're both in each other's Big Ten loop moving forward. And again, subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10.com. Got a lot of stuff there. You can get swag, shirts, t-shirts, golf shirts, hats, pennants, stuff for your desk, coffee mugs, all from your favorite teams right there. talkbig10.com. And all of our podcasts are there in order or grouped by school or team to make it easy for you to find. We just did a whole 10 minutes on Nebraska. This one will be followed away under Nebraska as well. Very easy for you to find moving forward. That is talkbig10.com. Speaking of former Nebraska Athletic Director Trev Alberts, he spoke at a recent SEC spring meeting on Tuesday. And of course, he's now the AD at Texas A&M. Much of the meeting centered around how to generate more money. These guys are like, how do we get more money? Seems to me the SEC and the Big Ten are doing pretty well in that department, but Albert insists that these conferences don't have a revenue problem. They have an expense problem. Not wrong. Said all these changes coming to college athletics will bring unintended consequences and that we will have to figure them out on the fly. First point of order is all the athletic directors are going to figure out how to carve out an extra $20 million out of their budgets next year to start paying revenue share. That's happening. It's done. It's going to happen. And for 10 more years, fork up another 200 mil and figure out how it's going to go to the athletes. That's an expense problem, according to Trev Alberts. All right, now we got an update for you. Locked On Big Ten this week, we devoted a lot of time to the wrongful termination lawsuit against Penn State by one of its former team doctors, Dr. Scott Lynch. Lynch said that football coach James Franklin butted heads with him repeatedly when it came to medical matters involving players' health and whether they were ready to get on the field following injuries. Dr. Lynch argued that friction cost him his job. A jury agreed with him on Wednesday night. Dr. Lynch was awarded $5.25 million, $250,000 in compensatory damages, and $5 million in punitive damages. There you have it. Also, remember, we mentioned former star players like Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley testified on behalf of Franklin and his methods from the time that they were there at Penn State and testified on behalf of the defense. Again, I'll point out again very clearly, James Franklin was not a defendant in this case. Just a lot of the testimony came out, and James Franklin got thrown under the bus a little bit for while the prosecutors were trying to make their case. Looks like they made their case. They won. All right. Yeah, a lot has been made about the job that Mike Woodson has done recruiting in the transfer portal for Indiana basketball this spring. He's completely revamped his basketball team, and there's plenty of excitement coming up for the Indiana basketball season. Now, one of his returning players and one of his main reliable players that had been there through the years was Trey Galloway. He's recovering from knee surgery. It's believed that Galloway injured his meniscus in the regular season finale against Michigan State, and then he did not return to play in the Big Ten tournament either. Although it was at that senior day, though, after the game, Michigan State, even though he was hurt, he came out and announced to the crowd that he's coming back for another year. Everybody's very excited about it. He's a very good player. Woodson says Galloway is going through rehab right now. He's not quite ready to hit the floor. He thinks Galloway has about 8 weeks of rehab coming up still, which would take him deep into July, but that he should be good to go then. Galloway averaged more than 10 points per game, but he was the first Hoosier since Isaiah Thomas to have multiple 12-plus assist games in a season, and he finished Big Ten play with 105 assists. It's tied for second most in Indiana history. He's a glue guy, and actually, even though he doesn't shoot a lot of threes, he was their best three-point shooter really the past couple of years, even though that was a low point for the Hoosiers. They need some shooting. But he occasionally could step up and hit a three. Great assist maker, tough player, knows where to go defensively, and certainly a leader on this basketball team. And with all the new talent coming in, he's got to be there ready to go to start because he's gonna lead everybody, tell them where to go, what to do, while everybody figures out Mike Woodson's system. All right. So that's an update on him. I know you Hoosier fans will be interested in hearing about that. Hey, if you're watching any daytime TV and it's sports like ESPN or FS1, all the talking heads on there going at each other, talking over each other, screaming over each other, trying to make a point over the next. Sometimes they think more volume makes you more correct. I don't know. You got to turn it down. Got an alternative for you. It's called Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming and nonsense. It's called Locked On Sports Today. Brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app we tell you about all the time here. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, at this point of the podcast, for our final segment, we always have features. If you're new to this podcast, Mondays, we do top 10 observations for the weekend, Tuesday, tweets, Wednesday, power rankings, Thursday, we look ahead to the Big Ten Network schedule and we look for Big Ten classics because we always like those and any Big Ten live action that they may have on the Big Ten Network, even though we're not affiliated with them. We talk about this stuff. We figured you'd be interested in it. And then Friday, we do picks or whatever. Pigskin picks, basketball picks, futures picks. But we got our Big Ten classics and live action coming up. A lot of great, we're running down the sports here. There's not as much live stuff. They're going into the vaults and getting out some great old-time classics. And it's too hot for you to be outside anyway. You might as well be sitting in the air conditioner watching some of this stuff. So we'll have all those, the ones that we found the most interesting coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, let's take a look now at our Big Ten classics and live action coming up this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Last day of May going into this first weekend of June. What's on the TV, even though it's too hot outside? Let's take a look. I'm going to go full screen. If you're audio only, I will describe this in detail as best I can. We'll pick up the action on Friday, May 31st at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. All times are Eastern here. We've got a Rutgers football classic just from this past December, the Pinstripe Bowl, Rutgers versus Miami. Kyle Monangai, 163 yards and a touchdown to help Scarlet Knights defeat the Hurricanes 31-24 at Yankee Stadium. I watched that game live. Wouldn't mind seeing that one again. Also at 6:30 p.m., a Nebraska football classic. Colorado at Nebraska, back from 1994. Brooke Behringer passed for 142 yards and a touchdown. And the third-ranked Cornhuskers 24-7 win over the second-ranked Buffaloes back in the day. And look, might as well get up on some of this history because Nebraska and Colorado played each other last year. They're going to play again this year, second week of the season. Dylan Raiola, freshman quarterback from Nebraska that we talked about in our first segment and repeatedly over the spring here, going against Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders, the whole Sanders family, and the Colorado Buffs. Can't wait for that one. Meanwhile, at 8 o'clock Eastern time, we have an Ohio State football classic, Ohio State at Penn State. This is from 2018. And for the second straight season, the fourth-ranked Buckeyes made a fourth quarter comeback. Dwayne Haskins throwing 2 touchdowns in the final 7 minutes to outlast the ninth-ranked Nittany Lions 27-26 in a squeaker at Happy Valley, in which they were not too happy. At 9 o'clock, we have an Ohio State football classic. Ohio State at Iowa, going back to 1990. Woo! Greg Fry passing the game-winning touchdown to Bobby Olive with 1 second remaining, and the Buckeyes edge out the 6th-ranked Hawkeyes 27-26 in that one. Check that one out. If you're not going to watch it live, tape it, record it at least. At 10 o'clock, we have a Wisconsin football classic, Michigan at Wisconsin from 1993. That's where Brent Moss ran for 126 yards of a touchdown to help the 21st-ranked Badgers beat the 24th-ranked Wolverines 13-10 at Camp Randall Stadium. And then finally, capping off a very busy Friday, at 11:30, Wisconsin football classic, the Rose Bowl, Wisconsin versus Stanford, January 1st, 2000. Ron Dane, Heisman Trophy winner, ran for over 200 yards and pushed him over 7,000 for his career. And the 4th-ranked Badgers defeated the 22nd-ranked Cardinal 17-9 in Pasadena. All right, let's take a quick look at the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We'll pick it up at 1 o'clock on Saturday, June 1st, at the plate, featuring Minnesota coach John Anderson, just retired, reflecting on his time as head coach for over 40 years of the Golden Gophers. And then a 1:30 Big Ten moment, the first night. This is good. This is looking back, Denard Robinson and company, looking back on that first night game at Michigan Stadium and the Wolverines' comeback victory over the Fighting Irish in 2011. I still remember that game, watching it live. That's still one of the best football games I have ever seen. So if you don't know much about it, maybe you're a little younger, you want to check out that little history lesson. Meanwhile, at 2 o'clock Eastern time, the big moment, the Buckeyes walk off over the Wolverines. Of course, Urban Meyer and Tom Rinaldi looking back at that dramatic double overtime win over the Wolverines in 2016. That leads into at 8 o'clock, the big story on the Big Ten, kissing the floor. You ever wonder why Michigan State basketball players kiss the floor at center court on senior night? Well, you can hear from Tom Izzo and Mateen Cleaves, Draymond Green, and they all talk about it and what that meant to them. And then at 9 o'clock, we've got the big story featuring the Nebraska volleyball team, something we talked about today as well. So take a look at that. And you could go behind the scenes ahead of that Cornhuskers match at Memorial Stadium in front of the world record crowd of 92,000 people last August. And then on Sunday, a whole bunch of volleyball for you. I've highlighted a couple of them. 6 o'clock Eastern time in the evening. Big Ten volleyball and 60 highlights of the Purdue-Indiana match from 2023. Cameron Hayworth with 40 assists, 9 digs, and 8 kills to help the Hoosiers upset the 15th-ranked Boilermakers 3-1. 7 o'clock, more volleyball highlights. Wisconsin and Nebraska, 2023. Merritt Beeson, 21 kills to help the second-ranked Cornhuskers to a 3-2 victory over the top-ranked Badgers. That's a good one there. And at 8 o'clock, Big Ten volleyball, Purdue at Penn State from 2023. We'll have that on there as well as the 19th ranked Boilermakers and a 3-1 victory over the 11th ranked Nittany Lions. So there you have it. That going into the weekend on the Big Ten Network, our Big Ten classics, not a lot of live actions, just classics and highlights. So you can enjoy all that. Again, well, it's just brutally hot out there across most of the country. Sit in some air conditioning and watch some old big time memories right on your TV. In the meantime, many ways for you to reach out to me and vice versa. Follow me on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. And then also don't forget, you can hit me up on YouTube. I always enjoy watching you guys go back and forth a little bit on there. Just keep it nice. Well, sometimes you don't. And also our website, talkbig10.com. Check us out there. Before you go, subscribe. I'm going to ask you if you haven't done that yet. That helps us out and will help us both out. Stay together. And you can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Also, check out another podcast of Locked On Big Ten. Catch up on maybe a few that you missed right after this. And don't forget, you can watch our friends as well at Locked On Sports Today for you 24/7 on YouTube. Can't wait till we talk again next time. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here today. Can't wait till our next time. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. See you next time.